Hey guys, and welcome back to the Simple Guy channel. It may be negative 2 degrees outside, but today I will show you how I installed a reverse camera on my BMW Z4. You can apply this method to any vehicle that has an aftermarket head unit as long as it supports a backup camera. If you'd like to see how I actually installed the head unit on this Z4, click on the link in the top right corner. There are of course a few different ways to install a backup reverse camera on your car. Some are easier than others, but here's how I did it. Well guys, there are a few ways to install an aftermarket camera on your Z4. You could of course go with one of those MMI, I believe, kits from Tech, and they're awesome, but they're also very expensive. You can also use one of these wireless systems that kind of connect to your aftermarket head unit. But what I found is that it doesn't have a trigger wire, so it doesn't really work unless you put a wire in anyway. And if you're going to do that, you might as well go with this option, putting an actual cable in. The quality is much better, and you also don't have any interference. When I plugged this one in just for testing purposes, there was a lot of kind of jiggling image and a little bit of interference, so it didn't look that great, and it cut out a couple of times just me testing it for about 10 minutes. What I do really like about this one is that this is actually specifically made for the Z4, and that goes above your license plate. So it replaces one of the lights, adds a light, and also you can put a camera in there. What I'm going to try to do is kind of take this one out and put my other one in and see if that works. It may not work, and I may have to drill a hole in the bumper to put that one in, but we'll see. So if we're not using that one, why do we like this one? Well, I like that it's much sleeker, so it's going to be very unnoticeable. You just put it underneath and it's going to be there basically. It does have a trigger wire, so this goes to the head unit, and you have your trigger wire right here, and this would connect to your reverse light. So whenever you put the car in reverse, it sends a signal to the trigger wire at the head unit, and you will have your reverse camera turned on. And then this kit also comes with a tool, trim removal tool, a bolt, and some gaskets, and adjusting pieces like this, so you can angle it a different angle basically to see what works best, and some instructions, and of course some electrical tape. So first things first, I'm gonna go plug this inside the car and make sure it actually works. And there are a few wires in here that need to be cut if you want to remove certain features. This does come with like lines on the camera, and I don't want that, so I'm gonna remove them, because my head unit will put in actual guidelines that turn with the steering wheel instead of like static ones, which I like a lot better. So let's go do that. All right, so here's how I'm going to test the setup. I have a 10-volt battery from a drill, which I'm going to use to power on. So this is basically just putting the car in reverse. And then I'm going to plug it into the head unit and make sure the trigger wire actually works. What we're plugging into on the head unit is cam VIN, so camera video in. I didn't want to take everything apart, but I did take out this piece just so I could get to the wires. I don't think I need to take the head unit out itself. This is my trigger wire right here, brown wire. This is my signal from this battery right here. It goes through that entire big loop, and I'm just going to connect the two wires. And there you go. You see how there's multiple lines? There's these on the side that come from the camera itself, and the ones on top that move with the steering wheel are from the head unit. So I'm going to be removing these over here by cutting the blue wire. All right, so here's the green wire that we have to cut. Let's plug it back in and see if it did the trick. All right, no more lines. Sweet. The only lines that you see here are actually the ones from the head unit, which I can turn off in the menu if I want to, but I like them because they move with the steering wheel, so that's pretty cool. Just how I like this Raycon 45-watt USB-C fast charger that I use in my car to power up my wireless phone charger, my laptop, and even charge up cameras while on the road. Check the link in the description to purchase yours. Since I don't want to drill a hole in my bumper, I started by modifying the bracket to fit my preferred camera. You want to get this done first and make sure it fits well, as making changes after you run the wire will be a lot harder. All right, so here's the final result. This is what it looks like. We have the camera, we have the light for the license plate, and I did a bunch more grinding so I could get this bolt in, so it's very secure. There's also double-sided tape underneath, but hey, it's ready to go. It looks much better than the original camera with the LEDs. and it's much better quality. It's also waterproof, so I'm not very worried. If I do see some kind of condensation or some kind of issue in the future, I can easily fill this in with, I mean, anything, epoxy, hot glue, whatever. But this is meant to be outside, so it's not a problem. All right, let's go get this installed. Now that our camera is ready to be installed, we need to remove some trim panels so that we can run the wire from the install location to the area behind the tail light, where we will be tapping into the reverse light wires for our signal. I also recommend getting a clip removal tool to make your life a lot easier. Alright guys, so to do this properly, you're supposed to take off the bumper basically and do it that way, but I don't want to take the bumper off because that's a lot of work. So I used a piece of electrical wire to fish through the exit hole here where the light goes normally. So it's basically between the bumper and here. So I just fished this through it. I pushed it from the top and then caught it with my hand at the bottom. I added some heat shrink to protect the little wires on the camera cable when we pull it through the bumper and just in general. You can get the same results by just using some electrical tape. There it is. Gotta be careful because of course the wire from the camera is not as tough as this wire, so you can't just pull it hard because you will basically just rip it. But I'm using this tool to slightly leverage the bumper back so it comes in much easier. Alright, so here's the actual routing of the wire. It goes from here up until into the hole over there. It comes out, basically came out over there, but I pulled it through. You can see it right in there. Goes behind the headlight, and we're using the same grommet as the headlight uses to go inside the car. And now we have the wire here, so we can connect it to the long wire and route that all the way inside the car. It's going to be another challenge, but I'm sure we can do it. Alright, so here's how I'm actually wiring in the trigger wire. This is the connector that's from the car going into the headlight. On the headlight we have the green little wire here and the black for negative. Positive is the green. I traced it to the reverse light that's in there, so I know this is going to be my positive and that's going to be my negative. And here's where the simple project got just a little bit more complicated. After connecting the power wires of the camera to the reverse lights of the car, the camera just would not power on. I assume this car limits the power sent to the reverse light and it's just not enough to power the camera. Solution here is to install a relay that gets triggered by the reverse lights and then sends power to the camera directly from the battery. The relay I ordered also included a fuse, so now we have a much safer fused installation. So here is how I actually wired it. The red wire on the relay connects to the positive terminal on the battery. The blue wire connects to the positive wire of the camera. Then the blue and black striped wire on the reverse light connector connects to the white wire on the relay, and black wire goes to ground. This means when the reverse lights are on, the white wire will turn on the relay, which will then connect the camera to the battery over the fuse. I hope that makes some kind of sense since I'm not an automotive electrician or anything like that, so I'm kind of learning as I go. I do a visual explanation later in the video if that helps. I also decided to add crimp connectors to pretty much every connection that I made on this install. I like it because you can easily disconnect at any point if needed. Alright, so I know it looks like a huge mess and I will show everything once I'm done with it and how it's connected, but for now I have this wire, so this is going to be my positive from the battery. I don't want to be powering anything from the actual lights in the trunk, so this one will connect to the positive connection on the relay. So this is where the power is coming from. So that's going to go in here. And then I will connect this end to the actual positive battery terminal. With the car safely in the garage, I just had to run the cable carrying the video signal and the trigger wire to the head unit. To do so, more trim pieces had to be removed. Alright, so the only hard one is the one that connects this piece right here, which is behind this cover. Then we have a little plastic 10 mil here, but I don't think we even have to take that out. I'm just gonna fish the wire through. All right, so I see the wire, but I can't grab it with my hand because it's kind of deeper in there. So I'm just gonna fish it in using this green electrical wire. There it is, got it. All right, so now that we have the wire in here, we're just gonna run it down with this wiring loom, and I'll bring you in closer to see where it goes from there. And the reason I'm doing some of the stuff the way I'm doing it is because there's a lot of clips in here. If I pull the whole thing out, I will most likely break one of them or something like that, you know? Especially in these older cars, it's so easy to do. So I prefer to kind of do as minimum, the minimum amount of actual tearing apart as possible. That's why I didn't take the bumper off and things like that. So here, I'm not gonna take this corner out. I'm gonna go behind right here and put the wire between the plastic and the door seal. All right, so I got the wire all the way up to the front here. I'm past this point and it's just sticking out here at the moment. So what I'm gonna do now is just remove this panel right there. There it is. So here's my fishing wire that I pushed in behind the head unit and into the light basically. So now I can attach my actual wire and pull it out. It's only like 2 inches. Yep, all right. So to show you live, here is my wire now. Right there. And I'm gonna connect. So I gave it a quick test and luckily it still works. So I'm just gonna tidy this up, put it back together and reassemble the rest of the car. And of course I used one of those crimp connectors here as well, just to make it easier to connect, you know, whenever I need to disconnect or move it around or something like that. Because otherwise I would have to either solder or I don't know how else you would do it actually. The main thing here is to make sure that the vents are not blocked, and they aren't. Violence is the answer. Now that I'm sure that I won't need any more cable, I can zip tie and organize the wiring in the trunk. It can be then hidden in some extra space by the tail light. Alright guys, so here's the entire setup. It's actually pretty simple, even though it looks a little bit complicated. It's not. Basically we have the wire coming from the camera in the back of the car. That comes in and then it splits into 2 different connections. We have our black wire, that's the one that goes all the way to the head unit. It includes the trigger wire for the reverse camera as well as the video signal. And then we have 2 wires that we are supposed to send power to as well as trigger from the reverse light to tell the camera when it's supposed to turn on. So my car did not like it when I connected it directly to the reverse light. So what I've done is actually just put in a relay, simple relay, nothing complicated. You have 4 wires. We have our 2 power wires. So basically this wire goes directly to the battery over there in the positive terminal on the battery. And then once it's switched on by the reverse light, so these 2 coming in right here from the reverse light right here. So we have the brown for negative and this blue black striped one for positive. Once the reverse light is on, it triggers this relay which sends the power from the battery right here to the camera. That's it. So I'm just gonna put this back on here and then hide the relay in the back there as well, and then these wires nicely fit all the way in there, and it's going to be all nice and clean and hidden. Alright guys, so the last step for this install is actually connecting the LED for the license plate, which I have done. This is the bracket where my camera is connected to, which of course has the LED. So I connected the LED using this waterproof connector to the original connector that was coming for that original light. Unfortunately, this bracket doesn't stay in the bumper that well. To test it, I just bumped the bumper and it fell out, so I'm gonna have to make it more secure. Alright, so I actually came up with a very simple solution. I heated up that bracket and then I extended it about like 3 millimeters, an eighth of an inch, 16th of an inch. I'm not really sure, but not a lot. But now it stays in. Woo! Alright, so here's how it actually works from within the car. It's very simple to use, and that's kind of the entire idea. All you really have to do is put the car in reverse, and it will automatically turn the camera on, and the camera will send a signal to the head unit to put on the correct application. The reason I'm mentioning this is because some head units will not do that, and you'll have to go to like a reverse application or something like that, and that's pointless to me. Like, what's the reason of even having that camera? It should work automatically when you go in reverse, and this one does, which I really like. The lines also move with the steering wheel, so if you're turning or backing up, the lines will show you where you're gonna end up. It may not be the most accurate representation ever, especially in this car, because I mounted it slightly to the side. If you mount it in the middle, it'll probably work just a little bit better, but it's still pretty good. I also like the quality of the camera. It's very good for analog. This is an analog camera. It's not digital, so it's not like HD or anything, but you can definitely make out all of the details, and it looks pretty good for what it is. So was it worth all of the work that went into installing this reverse camera? Honestly, a camera isn't really needed in a small car like this, and it was a lot of effort to run the wire and put the relay in and all that stuff. But I like tinkering with my cars, and I enjoy doing some wiring. If you have any questions or concerns, leave your comments below, like the video if you found it useful, and I'll see you in the next one.